People's Republic of China. They are there. We have our friends from Ghana. We have India. We have Indonesia. We have Islamic Republic of Iran. We have Republic of Iraq. We have Japan. We have Kenya. We have Nepal. We have Federal Republic of Nigeria. We have the Sultanate of Oman. We have Pakistan, State of Qatar. We have Republic of Korea. We have Kingdom of the Saudi Arabia. We have Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. We have the State of the Palestine. We have Syrian Arab Republic. We have United Arab Emirates. We have the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. We have the Philippines. And we have Turkey as well with us. Honorable guest of honor, there are a total of 49 member states constituting ALCO, and they annually meet to discuss various issues pertaining to the development of international law and the other areas of common interest, and that is why they are with us today. In the interest of time, I wish now to proceed with our timetable, in which case I will invite Honorable Professor Palamagamba Kabudi, our Minister for Foreign Affairs and East African Community, to deliver welcoming remarks. Professor Kabudi, karibu sana.
Your Excellency, Madam Samia Suluhu Hassan, the Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Honorable Professor Ibrahim Hamisi Juma, the Chief Justice of the United Republic of Tanzania, Honorable Ambassador Dr. Augustine Mahiga, Member of Parliament, Minister for Constitutional and Legal Affairs of the United Republic of Tanzania, Excellency Ambassador Koji Haneda, President of ALCO, Professor Kennedy Godfrey Gaston, Secretary General of ALCO, Honorable Judge Yuji Isanawa from the International Court of Justice, Honorable Ministers, Attorney Generals from ALCO member states, Honorable Judges and Justices of Appeal, Excellencies, High Commissioners and Ambassadors, and members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. Habari za asubuhi. You just say nzuri. Habari za asubuhi. Nzuri. Habari za asubuhi. Nzuri. Habari za asubuhi. Thank you very much. I'd like to take this opportunity, indeed, to thank you, Your Excellency, Madam Samia Suluhu Hassan, the Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, for reserving time out of a busy schedule to grace the 58th annual session of Asia African Legal Consultative Organization, ALCO. On behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the East African Cooperation and the organizers of this meeting, I would like to welcome all participants to Tanzania, and particularly to this great and historic city of Dar es Salaam, the harbor of peace. I'm aware the ALCO member states and some experts who have attended this session, the city of Dar es Salaam is not new to you. In 2010, you visited this city when we were privileged to host the 49th annual session of ALCO, which was chaired by the then Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs of the United Republic of Tanzania, Mathias Mainrad Chikawe. And I was privileged to attend that meeting as a member of the Faculty of Law of the University of Dar es Salaam. This session is the third to be held in Tanzania, after the city of Arusha hosted the 25th annual session in 1986, which was chaired by the then Minister for Justice and the Attorney General. At that time, it was one post, Justice Damian Zephaniah Lubuva. And again, I was privileged to attend that meeting as part of the Faculty of Law, University of Dar es Salaam. At several occasions, we are also privileged to host ALCO seminars and workshops. It is therefore our pleasure to welcome you and host you again in the United Republic of Tanzania. We thank ALCO Secretariat for its continued trust on us to host these sessions, seminars, and workshops. In this session, however, Your Excellencies, we feel more privileged and honored because since the establishment of ALCO in 1956, one of our own sons, Professor Kennedy Godfrey Gaston, is the Secretary General of this organization. It's a big honor for us. But more, it's a big honor for East Africa and the Faculty of Law, University of Dar es Salaam, because Professor Kennedy Godfrey Gaston is the second alumni of the Faculty of Law, University of Dar es Salaam, to provide a Secretary General of ALCO. The first one was Felix Njenga, who was among the first intake which established the Faculty of Law in 1961. So indeed, we're grateful for his contribution of Professor Gaston to work with ALCO, which in turn brings credit to this country, to East Africa, and more so to the Faculty of Law, University of Dar es Salaam. Your Excellencies, your attendance to this session is another testimony of how serious and committed member states are to work of ALCO in fostering the core values of the organization in upholding international rule of law. We are humbled that this session has attracted the participation of more than 150 government officials and experts. These numbers speaks volume of the value you have attached to ALCO. We have no doubt that your participation at this session will add value to the work of ALCO and its values. Your Excellencies, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the East African Cooperation, which oversees ratification of international instruments in the country, will continue to implement its obligation to ensuring that the United Republic of Tanzania fulfills its obligation under various international and regional instruments which we have ratified. We will further coordinate our participation in various international and regional forums that are aimed at developing and improving international standards suited to our conditions and our context. As far as ALCO is concerned, our commitment to its welfare and success is unquestionable. We continue to monitor and follow the work of ALCO through our High Commission in Delhi, and we thank the Secretariat for the cooperation we have had so far. Your Excellencies, on the part of the Ministry, it is gratifying to note and report that we have excellent diplomatic and other relations with countries that are members of this organization, ALCO, and these relations continue to grow each day. As we continue to forge relations through our membership in this organization, we are open to continue forging relations between our various ministries and organizations. I take this opportunity, therefore, to open up doors to member countries and organizations in this endeavor. Distinguished participants, be assured that your stay in Dar es Salaam will be comfortable. Your attendance in this session will be of success because with the assistance of ALCO Secretariat, the Ministry of Constitutional and Legal Affairs, under the stewardship of one of the most endowed sons of this country, Honorable Ambassador Augustine Mahiga, and other stakeholders who have put their efforts in organizing this session, we are ready and set to ensure that this session becomes a success. We know this session will keep you busy, but be informed that Dar es Salaam is the best place to be. Apart from work, please reserve time to visit some of the attractions available. Your Excellencies, allow me once again, and on behalf of the government, to welcome you to Tanzania and to echo Tanzanians' assurance of the work of the ALCO and our inclination to work with other ALCO member states. Tanzania will continue to render its support to the Secretary General and the Secretariat as they perform their duties to continue making this organization more effectively. And to my teacher and my mentor, Ambassador Augustine Mahiga, I wish you all the best in chairing this session. We, your students, have full confidence in you, and I'm sure this session will be of great success. Your Excellency, Vice President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for your kind attention. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I now take the opportunity to invite Honorable Professor Kennedy Gaston also to deliver some preliminary remarks. Karibu, Professor.
Excellency Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan, the Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Excellency Ambassador Dr. Augustine Mahiga, Minister for Constitutional and Legal Affairs of the United Republic of Tanzania, Excellency Professor Paramagamba Kabudi, Minister for Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation of the United Republic of Tanzania, Excellency Ambassador Koji Haneda, the 57th Annual Session President of ALCO and Ambassador of Japan to the Philippines, Honorable Professor Ibrahim Hamis Juma, the Chief Justice of the United Republic of Tanzania, Honorable Judge Yuji Wasawa, the Judge of International Court of Justice, Honorable Ministers, Attorney Generals, Solicitor Generals of ALCO member states, Excellencies, High Commissioners and Ambassadors, Permanent and Deputy Permanent Secretaries of the United Republic of Tanzania, Head of Delegations of ALCO member states, representatives of non-member states, heads of international organizations, senior government officials of the United Republic of Tanzania, distinguished media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all at the 58th Annual Session of ALCO, and as they say in Kiswahili, karibuni sana. I'm also delighted to be here in the United Republic of Tanzania, in my beloved home country, and at the occasion of the Annual Session of ALCO. Tanzania is well known throughout the world for her hospitality, and all of us indeed are happy to have come in this beautiful city of Dar es Salaam, which, as His Excellency Minister for Justice for Foreign Affairs, Professor Paramagamba Kabudi said, Dar es Salaam means house of peace or heaven in Arabic. But also Tanzania is known as a cradle of human civilization and a home of Mount Kilimanjaro, Zanzibar, Olduvai Gorge, and 24 national parks, including the Serengeti. I'm told that about 40% of the land in Tanzania is protected land, also suitable for tourism. Even here in Dar es Salaam, there are several important tourist destinations and important sites to visit. We have national museums, we have Dar es Salaam Zoo with ample flora and fauna, nice beaches in Kigamboni, which is about 10 minutes walk from here, and also within 30 minutes drive, you can visit the historical town of Bagamoyo. That means there are a lot to offer, even within the span of 24 hours or even 48 hours. I hope, therefore, that our delegate will enjoy the warm hospitality extended by our gracious hosts. I'm also confident that our delegation who have come from far and wide will take back the best of memories of the United Republic of Tanzania, East Africa, and Africa in general, so ably facilitated already by the diligent efforts of our organizers. I would like to extend my heartiest appreciations on behalf of the Afro-Asian community to our wonderful host, the United Republic of Tanzania, for hosting us, but also making all suitable arrangements to make this session a grand success. We appreciate the hard work and dedication that has gone into the preparations. This is the third time that Tanzania is hosting the annual session of ALCO since it joined the ALCO in 1973. The first session that took place in Tanzania was held in 1986 in the beautiful city of Arusha, and the second one took place in 2010 here in Dar es Salaam. I should also emphasize that Tanzania joined ALCO as observer way back in 1965 during the 7th annual session, which was held in Baghdad, Iraq, and by then, Mr. Felician Mahatane, the then State Attorney in Attorney General's Department, represented Tanzania. It is on this note that Tanzania decided to join ALCO as a full member in 1973 during the 14th annual session, which was held in New Delhi, India, and was ably represented by Mr. Mtango. Over the years, the United Republic of Tanzania has made a tremendous contribution, both in substantive and administrative matter of ALCO. In this regard, let me express my gratitude to the government and the people of the United Republic of Tanzania under the leadership of His Excellency Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, for the continued support to ALCO on many fronts for the past 54 years. I also would like to thank all member states of ALCO for their unwavering support to the Secretariat and ALCO in general, and to myself in particular as the Secretary General. It is this support that has strengthened the Secretariat's resolve and channeled our effort in making the organization stronger every passing year. Your Excellency, Madam Vice President, the purpose of ALCO remains unchanged. It is to serve an advisory body to member states in the field of international law and as a forum for African-Asian cooperation in legal matters of common concern. In general, ALCO remains vested with dual function as a platform for legal consultations and as a framework to collaborate with the United Nations International Law Commission legal advisors of member states, mainly working with the 6th Committee of the United Nations on the issues of international law of common concern to our member states. The annual session, therefore, is one of the key issues with Afro-Asian values. Your Excellency, Madam Vice President, while our region, Africa and Asia, is now becoming an important player in global affairs and a contributor to the progressive development of international law and its codification, on the other hand, there are many challenges emanating from international law facing our region, making the Afro-Asian solidarity more needed than ever. If I may be allowed to reiterate some of the challenges, they include The security environment in the region is facing severe conditions, coupled with the spread of terrorism and violent extremism. Within the context of Sustainable Development Goal 16+ for Agenda 2030, some studies have indicated that there is an increase in armed conflicts, and globally today, over 40 countries are in active conflict, and most of them are in Asia and Africa. And 92 countries have become less peaceful in the last 10 years. At the same time, there is an increased move to accredit military security spending as a progressive contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals. In fact, the world military expenditure, as of today, has increased to over $1 billion. You will recall the African Union 50th High-Level Retreat on the promotion of the peace, security, and stability in Africa, hosted by the government of the United Republic of Tanzania in 2014 in Arusha, had adopted the vision, and I quote, "silencing guns by ending all wars in Africa by 2020. And this is within the ambit of the AU Agenda 2063. Since 2020 is almost around the corner, I'm hopeful that we will be able to achieve this goal of silencing guns in Africa. Your Excellency, there is an unprecedented high number of people displaced from their homes due to conflict and persecution or otherwise in the United Nations history. In 2018, it is estimated that at least 10 million people around the world are stateless. African continent alone hosts over 14 million internally displaced persons. And in 2019, it is estimated that 70 million people have been forcibly displaced. There is also a backlash to the advance of globalizations and materialism as a result of protectionist and inward-looking tendency which is on the rise. The international order based on fundamental values such as freedom, democracy, human rights, and rule of law, which have underpinned the peace and the prosperity of the world, is being challenged. There is also disagreement on the balance, if any, between the economic rights and civil and political rights. On the other hand, if scientific predictions pertaining to climatic change are anything to trust, then almost all major port cities or coastal states, small or large, rich or poor, from Dar es Salaam to Mumbai, are likely to suffer from the sea level rise. Your Excellency, 72 years after the United Nations Partition Plan Resolution 181, Palestine people are still without a sovereign state and not admitted to the United Nations as a UN member. At the same time, 74 years after the establishment of the United Nations, decolonization is still on the agenda of the United Nations. In fact, the International Court of Justice, in its advisory opinion, which was delivered on 25th February this year, the court concluded, and I quote, "The process of decolonization of Mauritius was not lawfully completed when the country acceded to independence," end of quote. They also noted that, and I quote, "The United Kingdom is under an obligation to bring an end its administration of the Chagos Archipelago as rapidly as possible," end of quote. Your Excellency, Madam Vice President, international norms of cyberspace are far from being settled and agreed. While law is always behind the technologies, the advent of new technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and the blockchain present tremendous challenges on the ability of states to regulate the use of cyberspace and safeguard their sovereignty. Many states are even struggling in regulating online harmful content, where we are told that 56% of all online content are potentially pornographic materials. At the same time, 95% of all online transactions are done through mobile phones. The unilateral and secondary sanctions are also on increase, and this is against certain developing states, particularly in Asia and Africa. And sanctions against the Republic of Zimbabwe a best example within the Southern African region. At the same time, in the last 2 decades, we have seen exponential growth of bilateral investment treaties as well as free trade agreement comprising investment chapters. While great optimism was expressed in the beginning, characterizing these treaties as essential to attract foreign capitals, many countries are now disappointed. They are disappointed because the bilateral investment treaties have not resulted in bringing the expected foreign capitals. Recent reforms in countries like India, South Africa, and the United Republic of Tanzania in investment calls are among examples of developing countries in addressing challenges that are posed by bilateral investment treaties. Your Excellency, Madam Vice President, I have mentioned these challenges facing international community and norms of international law, partly to demonstrate that these complex and divisive issues cannot be addressed by a single nation and are best left to multilateral platforms that are more appropriately suited to deal with them. They cannot be addressed by unilateral action, no matter how tempting and charismatic such attempts or how rich and powerful those states may appear. At the same time, I wanted to suggest that the Afro-Asian region is facing some ambivalent relationship with international law and international institutions. Yet, there is hardly any aspect of human life or institutional human life which remain untouched by international law and international institutions today. And more areas of state activities are submitted to one or other form of transnational cooperation, and this comes in various forms such as the establishment of international organizations like the United Nations or ALCO. I therefore salute the principles of the foreign policy of our host, the United Republic of Tanzania, under his leadership of Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli, the President, which provides, and I quote, support the United Nations in its search for international economic development, peace, and security, end of quote, as, and I quote, Tanzania believes in the United Nations as a framework for consolidating bonds of humanity which link the world's people and nations, their cooperation for promoting world peace and socio-economic development, end of quote. Despite all the above crises that I have mentioned, we have no reason to lose hope. After all, much progress has been made. And as some scholars have suggested, while complacency would be misguided, so is despair. After all, international law is resilient as much as vigilance is needed to maintain its legitimacy. I'm also reminded that the word crisis has an apt translation in Chinese characters. It combines 2 Chinese characters, namely danger and opportunity. Likewise, in Kiswahili, there is a say that I quote, penye changamoto pana fursa, which literally means where there are challenges, there are also opportunities. Let us therefore take the above challenges and insufficiency, if any, of international law as an opportunity to maintain the legitimacy of the international law by reaffirming and revitalizing the Afro-Asian bonds in protecting fundamental values of the post-war international order and the UN Charter legal order necessary to promote peace, prosperity, orderly governance, and friendly relations among nations. International law is a product of international relations in terms of the customary practices and agreement between states, as there is no single body that can legislate for the world. Today, international law remains as the only legitimate medium for global friendship and cooperation, and its expansion to other areas is a development that is here to stay. The Afro-Asian region is now having more than half total of the United Nations membership. The positive contribution of Asia and Africa should therefore increase to match our numbers. This was not the case in 1945, when the United Nations was established by nearly 51 member states. Today, we have about 193 member states to the United Nations. It is therefore a time that through the solidarity, Asian and African countries should revise the claim that most of international law norms are influenced by the past practices of the Western states and that practices of African and Asian states are always neglected. Madam Vice President, I'm aware that last week, exact October 14th, Tanzania celebrated the Nyerere Day anniversary. Accordingly, no address will therefore be complete, not least within the Julius Nyerere International Convention Center, without reference to this iconic Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, the father and the first president of this nation, who, together with Sheikh Abeid Aman Karume, laid the foundation of the modern United Republic of Tanzania. Ever since, international law has always been relevant to the United Republic of Tanzania. It was Mwalimu Julius Nyerere's historical vision that made Tanzania part of ALCO family. His commitment to the vision of international law, African fraternity, and third world solidarity made him a standout, like closest among the world leaders committed to the cause of Africa's unity and Afro-Asian bonding. A statesman par excellence, a charismatic head of state, a master theoretician among scholars, and a unifier of diverse people, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere personified an eclectic brilliance that is rare to find today. His philosophy and his worldview lie at the heart of ALCO's timeless ethos and will continue to guide and inspire us in the progressive development of international law. It was Mwalimu Julius Nyerere's optional doctrine of state succession that became the norm of international law. I recall that this was his unilateral declaration to the acting Secretary General of the United Nations in 1961. In his letter to the Secretary General of the United Nations, dated 9th December 1961, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere had requested principles such as the most favored nation clause, the good faith, pacta sunt servanda, to be analyzed and their content be spelled out. This cautious approach of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere was partly ignored, and today, meaning and implication of these concepts in investment laws and policies remain controversial. In fact, ALCO, during its session 1969, had occasion to recall on these principles. Before I conclude my welcome remarks, allow me to remind the audience that ALCO is the only intergovernmental legal consultative organization that is comprised of two continents. Accordingly, its potential is unparalleled and exceptional. Let us therefore use ALCO to have more influential role in international lawmaking, which promote the global governance of international order based on the United Nations Charter and fundamental values which have underpinned the peace and the prosperity of the world. As Dag Hammarskjöld, the second Secretary General of the United Nations, said, and I quote, "The United Nations was not created to take mankind to heaven, but to save humanity from hell," end of quote. Also, Kofi Annan, the seventh Secretary General of the United Nations, said, and I quote, "The United Nations is not a perfect organization, but we need it," end of quote. And as recently stated by His Excellency Professor Paramagamba Kabudi, Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, on the 27th September 2019 at the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly, to save humanity from hell, even on the pavement of good intentions. With these remarks, I wish the annual session a grand success, and I hope that each member state actively participates in the proceedings, enriching us through their deep knowledge, experience, and wisdom, which, as always, will be the greatest learning curve for us, and thereby pave the way for a deeper and substantive engagement with some of the fine aspects of international law. As we get ready to begin a new session, let us pledge to commit ourselves for further the cause of international law, keeping in view the distinct and diverse nature of our collective needs. In closing, I wish to reiterate the following. This is an opportune moment for us to commit to a rule-based international order. Secondly, all states should benefit from international world order that is based on rule of law, because it is a rule of law that allows us and gives us the predictability and the management of relations among nations. Third, a rule-based international order provides a strong foundation for the international community to come together to tackle many global issues that cannot be handled unilaterally or by a single nation, however powerful that may be. Finally, an economic growth is indeed critical for the foundation of development, as growth allows us to generate the necessary resources for development, and international trade is an essential enabler for the economic growth. And upholding an open, predictable, rule-based, multilateral trading systems provides businesses and investors with the clarity and certainty when it comes to cross-border transactions. I thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you very much, Secretary General Professor Gaston. Indeed, as you said, penye changamoto pana fursa, where there are challenges, there are also opportunities. When we started the journey towards organizing this particular meeting, we thought of how are we going to get the resources. Your Excellency, guest of honor, we reached out. And I wish to recognize a few people who actually made this particular conference possible. First of all, we have the Bank of Tanzania. Can we give the Bank of Tanzania at least a round of applause? We reached out to Azam TV, and you'll see this particular program is actually live on air through Azam TV. We reached to CRDB, Bank of Tanzania. We reached to Tanzania Communication Corporation, TTCL. We also reached to Tigo Tanzania. We reached towards the Tanzania Tourist Board, the Legal Service Facility, the National Insurance Corporation, National Tanzania Insurance Regulatory Body, Tanzania Communication Regulatory Authority, Tanzania Ports Authority, Coca-Cola, Tanzania Breweries Limited, the Unity Trust of Tanzania, Tanzania Revenue Authority, Tanzania National Housing Corporation, the Medical Stores Department, National Service Corporation or SUMA JKT, Tanzania Red Cross, Tanzania National Parks or TANAPA. Your Excellency, guest of honor, we also reached to the People's Republic of China for support. And they indeed supported us. And Your Excellency, we also reached to the government of Tanzania, also supported us. So with those words, may I take this opportunity to invite Ambassador Koji Hanenda to deliver his remarks. Karibu sana.
Her Excellency, Vice President Madam Samia Suluhu Hassan, Honorable Ambassador Dr. Augustine Mahiga, Minister of Constitutional and Legal Affairs, Honorable Professor Palambamba JMM Kabudi, Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, Honorable Chief Justice Hamis Joma, Honorable Ambassador Professor Kennedy Gaston, ALCO Secretary General, Honorable Judge Yuji Iwasawa, Judge of International Court of Justice, Honorable Ministers, Attorney Generals, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is indeed a great honor and privilege for me to address you on the occasion of the 58th annual session of ALCO. I take this opportunity to welcome each of you to this beautiful and majestic city of Dar es Salaam and thank the government of the United Republic of Tanzania for hosting us in this beautiful country. From 1956 when ALCO, then AALCC, was formed as a small forum of Asian states to foster the exchange of ideas of international law, ALCO has emerged as one of the largest forums of states in the world to facilitate the growth and development of international law. Undoubtedly, it is the only organization of its kind bringing together the diversity of the Afro-Asian community in one of the most significant aspects of world diplomacy today, namely the codification and progressive development of international law. Excellencies, I take this occasion to bring warm greetings from the government of Japan to the government of the United Republic of Tanzania and each of the member states present on this occasion. Japan, as always, pledges its full commitment to the work and values of ALCO and looks forward to even greater cooperation in the days to come. Strengthening international rule of law is a collective commitment, and I am sure with the sustained efforts of each and every nation, ALCO is destined for even greater heights in the days to come. Excellencies, I take this opportunity to place on record my deep sense of appreciation for Professor Ambassador Kennedy Gaston, Secretary General of ALCO, for his meticulous and focused efforts in reaching out to member states. Under his visionary leadership, ALCO is doing wonderfully well, augmenting its resources in the most efficient manner for the progressive development and codification of international law. A range of new topics have been introduced by the Secretary General in the work program of ALCO, and I request member states to make full use of Secretariat's diligence and commitment to their work. The United Republic of Tanzania has been a strong pillar of support for ALCO in both organizational and substantive matters. Tanzania has always endeavored to offer its services for the larger good of the Asian African community. It is precisely with this spirit that the 58th annual session is being hosted, and the best that all of us can do to complement this commitment is to reaffirm our unflinching support to the growth and development of international law. During Japan's presidency, ALCO made great strides in diverse aspects of its functioning. Japan announced a new program to support the capacity building of ALCO members in the area of international law at the last annual session of ALCO, and will hold the first program in December this year. Through the program, we will try to address the challenges facing ALCO members concerning important international law issues. The DJA ALCO seminar on the operational functioning of the International Criminal Court was held in January 2019. I am extremely happy to know that ALCO took the initiative to organize this program for the benefit of our member states, and its specific focus on the needs of judges and prosecutors of ALCO member states is well appreciated. It is these kinds of events which go a long way in sensitizing the world to newly emerging dimensions of the subject. ALCO's engaging with the International Criminal Committee of the Red Cross on matters pertaining to new weapons technology during Japan's presidency needs to be mentioned. As we are all aware, conventional warfare is giving way to new forms of warfare. The rise of new weapons technology and their deployment in combat situations has created a situation where traditional rules of warfare require creative application to counter the massive threats posed. Rules of proportionality, distinction, and military necessity require renewed interpretation in the light of these developments. I am happy that ALCO and ICRC are committed to furthering their cooperation on this point. The 5th session of the China-ALCO exchange program took place from 29 July to 16 August 2019 among numerous activities held during this tenure, all of which could be elaborated by the Secretary General during the presentation of the Secretary General's report. The regional arbitration centers of ALCO have been doing commendable work over the last many years. We expect them to progress with the same energy in the times to come. A separate session dedicated to the work of the regional arbitration centers will be held in the coming days. A special study prepared by the Secretariat on legal status of Jerusalem, keeping in mind recent attempts to disrupt the status quo, will be released during the course of the proceedings of this annual session. I congratulate the Secretariat for the successful completion of the study and hope it will provide much-needed clarity on the completed legal dimensions of the subject. Before I close, I would like to appreciate ALCO's close working relationship with the United Nations and the International Law Commission. In addition, numerous MOUs have been signed by ALCO with various international organizations and universities. All these activities go on to establish ALCO's deep commitment to furthering the cause of international law in our fraternity. I wish to thank all the distinguished delegates who are participating in the 58th annual session and hope the deliberations will be further strengthen the bonds of Afro-Asian friendship and solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable President of ALCO. Now I invite Honorable Yuji Iwasawa, the Judge of International Court of Justice, to deliver his remarks. Karibu.
Thank you, Professor Jome, for your introduction. Her Excellency, Madame Samia Suluhu Hassan, Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Honorable Ambassador Dr. Augustine Mahiga, Honorable Professor Lamagamba Kabudi, Honorable Professor Ibrahim Duma, Honorable Ambassador Professor Kennedy Gaston, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to express my respect for the invaluable role of the Asian African Consultative Organization to further strengthen and promote the rule of law in the international community. I would also like to appreciate the leadership of the government of Tanzania, especially Her Excellency Madame Samia Suluhu Hassan, for hosting the annual session of ALCO in this beautiful country. In this speech, I'd like to share with you my thoughts on one of the most important developments in international law since the end of the Second World War, namely the increasing importance of individuals as subject of international law. Under traditional international law, it was widely believed that states were the only subject of international law. The international legal personality of the individual was firmly denied. This situation has dramatically changed since the end of the Second World War. It is now recognized that individuals have rights and duties under international law. These developments are most evident in the fields of international human rights law, international economic law, and international criminal law. I will start with a brief overview of the development in international human rights law. Mechanisms for the international protection of human rights have advanced considerably since 1945 and have become one of the prominent characteristics of modern international law. The most important development was the introduction of individual complaint procedures in human rights treaties at the universal and regional levels. Most core UN human rights treaties have individual communication procedures. The Human Rights Committee under the ICCPR, of which I was a chairperson twice, receives the largest number of communications of any UN human rights treaty body. 100 to 200 communications are registered each year. Even though the views adopted by the committee are not legally binding, there are many instances in which the human rights situation has improved as a result of its views. In some regions, the system of human rights protection is more advanced than within the UN. In Europe, Latin America, and Africa, regional courts of human rights have been established. These courts are active and have rendered a number of important judgments. Hundreds of thousands of applications are submitted to the European Court of Human Rights by individuals every year. I now turn to the development in international economic law. The dispute settlement procedures in the WTO have been hailed as one of the organization's most successful achievements. Over 300 disputes were brought to the dispute settlement procedures in the GATT, the predecessor of the WTO, and over 500 disputes have been brought to the WTO. Even though individuals do not have direct access to the WTO dispute settlement procedures, one may say that they have indirect access to them. Another important development is investment arbitration, which has increased dramatically since the end of the 1990s. The total number of arbitration cases amounts now to nearly 1,000. Individuals play an important role in the enforcement of international investment agreements. Lastly, I draw your attention to the development in international criminal law. Under the traditional laws of war criminals were convicted by a domestic court in accordance with the criminal law of the state. After the Second World War, however, significant developments occurred. First, punishable acts were expanded. Individuals are now punished not only for war crimes, but also for genocide and crimes against humanity. Secondly, individuals have come to be tried by international tribunals. Madam Vice President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in this speech, I have demonstrated that one of the most significant developments in international law is the increasing importance of individuals as subject of international law. Early next year, I'm publishing a textbook of international law, which amounts to 800 pages, in which I refer to the Nyerere theory on state succession. It shows a variety of important topics in international law will be discussed. I sincerely hope that my presentation gives an insight to honorable participants to further deepening and enriching the discussions during this annual session of ALCO. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Judge, for those beautiful remarks. I now invite the Honorable Ambassador Dr. Augustine Mahiga, the Minister for Constitutional and Legal Affairs, to deliver his remarks, but also take the opportunity to invite the guest of honor to speak to the audience. Balozi Mahiga, karibu.
Your Excellency, Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan, the Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, His Excellency Koji Haneda, President of the 57th ALCO Annual Session, Professor Ibrahim Juma, Chief Justice of Tanzania, Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, Professor Kabudi, honorable ministers and deputy ministers who are present here today, Professor Kennedy Gaston, Secretary General of ALCO, Honorable Yuji Iwasawa, Judge of the International Court of Justice, and other justices present, Excellencies, High Commissioners and Ambassadors, Permanent Deputy Permanent Secretaries of the Government of Tanzania, Heads of Delegation from ALCO member states, representatives of non-member states, representatives of international organizations, representative of the media, 8th annual session of the Asian Africa Legal Consultative Organization, ALCO, as the host minister and incoming president of the organization. As Tanzania assumes the presidency of this reputable organization, on behalf of the government, the people of the United Republic of Tanzania, and on my own behalf, I wish to assure the mission of our organization. Before I proceed to say something about ALCO, let me add my voice in welcoming all of you to Tanzania, which the Minister for Foreign Affairs and the Secretary General have already said. Many of you here must have illustrated histories of your respective countries, where East Africa, Zanzibar in particular, is mentioned. And that's why, while you are here, you should feel this is a homecoming, because you are very much part of the history and culture of this country. To mention only a few, the celebrated sailor and scholar Ibn Battuta from the Kingdom of Morocco was one of the earliest visitors to the East African coast, Kilwa in particular, more than 1,000 years ago. The celebrated Chinese admiral who, during those times, I can't remember which dynasty, was probably the biggest naval force in the world, came to East Africa as a trader, and there are remnants and artifacts to attest to that visit and trade in our National Museum. I must also mention the great civilization of the Shirazi people from the present-day Iran. If you go to Zanzibar today, that civilization is humbly demonstrated not only in mosques, in castles, in the streets, but let me tell you something that many of you probably do not know. Our vice president is a descendant of the Shirazis. Let me also acknowledge the many visits that have been made by many Gulf states of today, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait. India has a landmark presence in East Africa, so is Indonesia. Many of the vegetables and fruits that we enjoy in the mainland and in Zanzibar originated from India and Indonesia. Some of the music and architecture that we see in our buildings are inherited from India, from Arabia, from Indonesia, and as far afield as Malaysia. When people talk of Dar es Salaam as the piece of harbor, let me explain what it means. And I invite you to take a short walk along the harbor. You'll see a narrow entrance, the Kigamboni entrance, then a big opening of the ocean. During the days of the sailing ships that had been battered by the monsoons, those ships had to pass through that narrow strait and find safety in this big area of Dar es Salaam, where today you see the modern ships. And that is why that part, for the days of the sailing ships that were victims of the monsoons, bad weather, they had to come and hide and seek peace. And that is the origin of the word Dar es Salaam, the peace of harbor. I hope this will be remembered. I can go on and on to acknowledge, but what I mean is that you have come to Tanzania, you have come to Dar es Salaam. Take time, not only to have a walk along the coast, but hopefully the organizers can find half a day of a visit to Zanzibar, where really that is the place where most of the evidence of the civilization and culture we have inherited from historical presence and trade between your countries and ours is most illustrated. Again, welcome to your second home, Tanzania. Distinguished delegates, for the past 1 year, we have witnessed some tremendous achievements of our organization in realizing its objectives. May I congratulate His Excellency Ambassador Koji Haneda, the outgoing president, for the accomplishment he has made over the past year for his distinguished stewardship to the organization. In the same manner, please allow me to thank His Excellency Professor Dr. Kennedy Gaston, the Secretary General of our organization and Ambassador appointee, for serving our organization with the dedication since he assumed the position of the Secretary General in August 2016. In a special way, I also congratulate him for his appointment by His Excellency President John Pombe Magufuli as Ambassador Designate. This demonstrates the trust which the President and the country has over this serving Secretary General and a future Ambassador of Tanzania. I wish you success, and during this session, I count on your support as I chair, and will continue to draw experience from the work that you have done, as I will continue to draw experience from the outgoing president of ALCO. Dear colleagues and friends, the growth and development of ALCO since its inception in 1956 has been outstanding in many years and in many areas. In the spirit of Bandung, ALCO and its founding members assisted many emerging nation states in Africa to navigate through the complex legal challenges of negotiating and gaining independence from the colonial powers. That spirit of Bandung is still alive. And I want to pay special tribute to the founding members, India, Indonesia, Myanmar in particular, who have sown the seeds that we see today as an organization of 48 member states. Its advisory role as to new states was particularly important for the newly independent states in Africa, which were faced with challenges relating to boundary issues, succession to treaty, treatment of foreigners and their properties. In the 1970s, the role of ALCO became more evident through the contribution in the codification of international law, and as a result, it became internationally recognized as a worthwhile contribution to the international legal system and the international legal regimes. Since its establishment in 1956, ALCO has achieved many successes in upholding fundamental norms of international law, from the laws governing diplomatic relations, environmental legal regime, state immunities, international boundaries, human rights and law, humanitarian law, trade and business, commercial transactions, to mention only a few. And the Executive Secretary has actually outlined the areas of success and the interventions which ALCO has done on behalf of its member states to strengthen their legal position and their collective bargaining in the international system. Dear colleagues, despite this achievement, we shouldn't be complacent. I am convinced that we need to add more ideas. New practices have been inspired by the judge of the International Court in his statement. Let us all read that 800-page book. I'm sure it will be very educative and will bring and add value to the work of ALCO and its member states. It is imperative that we continue to preserve our consistency and unity and strive to maintain the underlying principles of this organization. It is also important to keep on reminding ourselves of the core values and ideals of our organization, which are still valid and will continue to be valid. The fact that there are no new member states that are joining us just goes to validate the importance and contribution of ALCO in the international system. For those who have their representatives in various international organizations, particularly at the United Nations Sixth Committee, the ideas that its member states bring that have gone through the ALCO process are very enriching and highly recognized at the United Nations in New York. Distinguished delegates, let me not take too much time. You have heard too many speeches, but our main speaker is the Vice President, and I want to invite her to talk to us. Thank you very much indeed.
I thank you, Honorable Minister. Please be seated. Thank you. Honorable Minister, Dr. Augustine Mahiga, Minister for Constitutional and Legal Affairs, Professor Palamagamba Kabudi, Minister for Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, Excellency Ambassador Koji Haneda, the President of the 57th ALCO Annual Session, Professor Ibrahim Juma, Chief Justice of Tanzania, Professor Kennedy Gaston, Secretary General of ALCO, Honorable Yuji Iwasawa, the Judge, International Court of Justice, Honorable Ministers, Attorney Generals, and Solicitors General from ALCO member states, Excellencies, High Commissioners and Ambassadors, Permanent and Deputy Permanent Secretaries, Heads of Delegation of ALCO member states, representatives of non-member states, heads of international organizations here present, representatives of observer states, government officials of ALCO member states, members of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Assalamu alaikum. Habari ya asubuhi. Brothers and sisters, it is so difficult speaking after the great diplomat and historian has spoken. So mine is a political statement, and here it goes. It is indeed my honor and privilege on behalf of His Excellency, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, to be the guest of honor at this auspicious occasion of official opening the 58th session of the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization. On behalf of the government and the people of the United Republic of Tanzania, it is my pleasure to join the previous speakers in welcoming you all to Tanzania, and particularly to this conference. As we take our places in this conference, ready for discussion, let me remind every one of us here to begin all our work in the name of God. For the solution of all our problems is a spiritual one. And having said our prayers, allow me now to congratulate the Secretary General of the organization, Professor Kennedy Gaston, for his continued service to the organization, to which he has played a major role in facilitating cooperation among the Asian and African countries in the development of international law. May I also use this opportunity to thank all member states for extending unqualified support to Professor Kennedy Gaston, who is also my brother, a Tanzanian national, in steering the work of the Secretariat since being elected to office in 15th August 2016. It has been a great honor to him personally and to our country, Tanzania in particular. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, since the formation of ALCO in 1956, the organization has provided an important platform for member states of our two continents to promote and advance common positions in bringing change at international level in the spheres of the development of international law for the benefit of our regions and respective member states. Our meeting today reaffirms and attests to the immense and deep cooperation in many areas, which include but not limited to political, economical, cultural, technological, and legal sectors, which ALCO member states, including Tanzania, have established within the framework of cooperation. It is on this premise we are meeting today to review our cooperation and further spearhead the role of developing international law in the world. Dear delegates, I encourage and urge the member states to continue upholding the spirit of cooperation and engagement in a view to sustain international law in Asia and Africa. It is through this cooperation ALCO will be playing a significant role in development of international law, especially in areas related to international trade, investments, intellectual property, and regional security. As we strive to achieve our goals, and our interests be achieved at the international level, we need to stand more together and consolidate our solidarity through regular consultations. Over the years, the United Republic of Tanzania has always been committed to supporting the work of ALCO in upholding the development of international law. We have always lived in peace with our neighbors, and we have played a great role in steering and championing for peace in the Great Lakes region. Having learned from the experience of several Asian countries, the Bandung spirit and the non-aligned movement, Tanzania played a leading role in the political liberation of Southern Africa. Throughout, we had a strong belief that where there is rule of law, there is stability. And where there is stability, there is growth and development. The rule of law is also a basic tenet for upholding universal norms such as democracy and human rights. We also believe in the words of an Indian statesman, APJ Abdul Kalam, who says, "Where there is righteousness in the heart, there is beauty in the character. Where there is beauty in the character, there is harmony in the home. And where there is harmony in the home, there is order in the nation. And where there is order in the nation, there is peace in the world." So let us work hard in building peace at homes, in our nations, and in the world. Distinguished delegates, Tanzania, as a developing country, plays a big role to the work of ALCO in striving to achieve maintenance and settlement of international peace and security. We have been in the forefront in peace building in the Great Lakes region and peacekeeping in different missions in the region and beyond. Today, we have our peacekeeping forces in Congo, Democratic Republic, Darfur, Sudan, and Lebanon. On the same vein, Tanzania continues to be the home of many refugees. This also illustrates Tanzania's commitment to international humanitarian law and human rights law. Further, in supporting the work of the organization, Tanzania has undertaken various ways in ratifying international treaties against terrorism and international organized crimes, such as human trafficking and money laundering. In this regard, we have taken stringent measures, and the culprits have been brought to justice. While this meeting is conducted, our government is engaged in a serious war of combating corruption in all its manifestations and economic sabotage through well-established legal instruments. My dear brothers and sisters, today we witness the fueling of civil wars in the developing countries, mainly triggered by self-interest of other states to exploit resources. It is upon us, through this reputable organization, to stand firm in protecting the interests of the developing nations by fair legal mechanisms and international law. We need to strive to ensure that there are well-established regional and global institutions that are founded on fairness and respect for national sovereignty to protect our respective national interests. It is in this context and through this platform that Tanzania calls upon states which have imposed sanctions against Zimbabwe to lift them. Zimbabwe, as a sovereign state, has the right to determine and exercise its power and freedom as enshrined under Article 2, subsection 4 of the UN Charter. The United Republic of Tanzania believes that ALCO member states, through this platform, will continue to voice together in advancing the principles of non-interference in the domestic affairs and respect for sovereignty. On the development of international law, more specifically the development of the law of the sea, Tanzania supports the ongoing negotiations in New York in order to have the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. Tanzania will continue to support the position of African and Asian countries, the Group 77 and China to ensure the proposed conventions adopted and the use of marine biological diversity areas beyond national jurisdiction are beneficial to all humankind. Distinguished delegates, on international trade and investments, much as we would love to open up investment and business opportunities in many areas, we are also obliged to ensure we protect our resources and ensure that they are used for the benefit of our people. In that regard, in 2017, the government of Tanzania made major reforms by enacting two landmark pieces of legislation. One is the Natural Wealth and Resources Act, number 6 of 2017, which provides measures intended to ensure that the natural wealth and resources of the United Republic of Tanzania are used for the greatest benefit and welfare of people of this country by seeing or ensuring that all arrangements made by the government protect and secure the interests of the people. Anna Lindh, a Swedish politician, once said, and I quote, "States have the responsibility to create rules and conditions for growth and development, and to channel the benefits to all citizens by providing education and making people able to participate in the economies and in decision-making," end of quote. It is through this spirit and adherence to the rule of law that Tanzania has strived to advance all economic and social sectors development, including health, education, infrastructure, agriculture, and other key sectors for the betterment of our people. And before I conclude my remarks, I wish to thank ALCO Secretariat for consistently championing the work of the organization and for ensuring that interests of our two regions are strongly articulated and well defended at the international level. I'm confident that the Secretariat will continue to work for the organization towards achieving our set of goals and objectives. It is my expectation that the deliberations of this meeting will have a significant outcome in sharing experience and generating new ideas on development of international law and addressing new challenges which we face collectively and individually as member states. Distinguished delegates, allow me now to once again, and on behalf of the government and the people of the United Republic of Tanzania, to reiterate our country's commitment to the work of ALCO and our willingness to work with other state members. Tanzania will continue to render all the necessary support to the Secretary General and his team as they pursue the noble goal of this organization. And before I declare this session open, I once again welcome you all to Tanzania, and I hope after these 5 days, we will find time to visit various places of interest as they have been mentioned here earlier. But remember, you are in the United Republic of Tanzania, and Dar es Salaam is one part of Tanzania, and Zanzibar is another part of Tanzania. So I would advise you to visit Zanzibar. It's just 25 minutes by air, an hour and a half by boat, and you're gonna enjoy the ocean of different colors crossing from Dar es Salaam to Zanzibar. So I would strongly advise you to visit the other part of the United Republic of Tanzania. And rest assured that your colleagues, brothers and sisters of Tanzania will be delighted to guide you to those nice places. And having said all this, I now have the pleasure and honor to declare the 58th session of the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization officially opened. Thank you for your kind attention. Asanteni sana kunisikiliza. Karibuni Tanzania. Wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Mheshimiwa mgeni rasmi, niruhusu niongee kwa Kiswahili ili na angalau tuchagize katika lugha yetu. Tunakushukuru sana Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan kwa maneno mazuri ambayo umetupatia siku ya leo na ambayo yatatusaidia katika siku zetu hizi 5 tutakazokuwa tunajadili masuala haya ya hizi nchi za ALCO. Dear colleagues, I've appreciated the good words and wisdom from our guest of honor, Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan. I now take the opportunity to invite the Honorable Attorney General, Professor Adeladus Kilangi, to deliver a vote of thanks. Professor, karibu.
Your Excellency, Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan, Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Your Excellency Koji Haneda, President of the 57th ALCO Annual Session, Honorable Ambassador Dr. Augustine Mahiga, Minister of Constitutional and Legal Affairs of the United Republic of Tanzania, Professor Ibrahim Juma, the Chief Justice of the United Republic of Tanzania, Honorable Professor Paramagamba Kabudi, Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, Honorable Ministers, Deputy Ministers present, Professor Kennedy Gaston, Secretary General of ALCO, Honorable Yuji Iwasawa, Judge of the International Court of Justice, and other justices present, Honorable Said Hassan Said, the Attorney General of Zanzibar, Attorneys General and Solicitors General from ALCO member states, Excellencies, High Commissioners and Ambassadors, Permanent and Deputy Permanent Secretaries, Heads of delegation from ALCO member states, representatives of non-member states, representatives of international organizations here present, representatives of observer states, senior government officials from ALCO member states, members of the media, distinguished guests present here this morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am only asked to make a vote of thanks, for which I feel greatly honored. Therefore, on behalf of the distinguished delegates and on behalf of the government of the United Republic of Tanzania, I would like to thank you so much, Madam Vice President, for accepting to spare your time to come and officiate this annual session. Madam Vice President, as it has been said, this session will run for 5 days, and during these days it is expected that delegates will discuss different topics on international law which are important for ALCO member states, especially in the contemporary perspective. And the topics would include, among others, the current work of International Law Commission on development of international law, current issues on the law of the sea, peaceful settlement of international disputes, international application of national legislation, and sanctions imposed against third parties, and on issues of international trade and investment law and international law in cyberspace. Allow me, therefore, to thank, in the first place, the outgoing president of ALCO, His Excellency Ambassador Koji Haneda, for his distinguished leadership over the past year. I would like also to thank the Secretary General of ALCO, Professor Kennedy Gaston, for his distinguished service to the organization since he assumed office in 2016. Along that line, allow me also to thank the entire Secretariat of ALCO, as well as the Ministry of Constitutional and Legal Affairs, for handling the preparations that led to this successful meeting. I wish to also thank all distinguished delegates who have traveled long distances to attend to this annual session, and that the attendance in this room is witness to the good participation. Otherwise, I would like also to thank everyone in attendance to this session, and your attendance will contribute surely to the success of this particular meeting. Although already acknowledged, I would also like to reiterate our gratitude to the sponsors and supporters who made this particular meeting possible. It is my belief that at the end of the meeting, the deliberations will be fruitful and will have a significant contribution to the development of international law and in strengthening the cooperation among the member states. Madam Vice President, once again, I thank you for accepting to join us and inaugurate the 58th session of ALCO. I thank you so much. Asante sana and karibu sana for everybody. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the proceedings of today. Now, this session would not be complete if we did not have a very special photo session. And I would like now to welcome the different delegates in which will come together in groups. So firstly, I'm sure our respective media has already taken a photo of the panelists in front of us. So afterwards, I would like to welcome all ministers, deputy ministers, and heads of delegations to please walk to my right. We walk through this entry over here, and we go out the other entry over there. So please, ministers from the United Republic of Tanzania and member states, to please come onto the stage so we can have a photo session. Ministers, deputy ministers, and heads of delegations, please. Okay. Thank you so much, honorable ministers. Thank you so much. Now, would I please have permanent secretaries, all permanent secretaries from member states and the United Republic of Tanzania, attorney generals, DPP, and Solicitor General, please, if we would come to the stage. Afterwards, we will have ambassadors and high commissioners, followed by the committee or the organizational committee, and lastly by our sponsors. So now, will I please have all permanent secretaries, attorney generals, DPP, and Solicitor Generals. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Now, can I please have high commissioners and ambassadors, please, if you will, your excellencies. Afterwards, the organizational committee, please prepare yourselves. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, please, the organizational committee, if you will. Kamati ya maandalizi. Tafadhali naomba tudi tu. Okay. Observers and sponsors, please as well, would you please prepare yourselves? You're also going to have a photo session. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the committee that has helped organize this whole event and has made everything possible. This committee, thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, please, observers and sponsors, please, if you will. Observers and sponsors, please. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this significantly concludes our session. Now, if you will, brass band, just play us a tune as we, as the guest of honor leaves the entrance. Thank you, brass band. Ladies and gentlemen, what is left is obviously to fill our tummies with some nutrition. So now we have lunch and tea lined up for you. So if I would please have all the ministers, deputy ministers, heads of delegations, attorney generals, DPP, and solicitor generals would be accompanied by the ushers to the second floor. To the second floor, there is a venue called Kitulo and Old Divai. On either sides of the exits, they will be serving tea and lunch over there. For everybody else, tea will be served at the lobby, right outside the main exits, which will are straight down the row. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I look forward to continuing with everybody. Thank you.
Tatu 2-1-0. Ni close. Ilikuwa ni mkutano huo wa 58 wa mashirikiano ya kisheria ambapo makamu rais ndio amefungua mkutano huo, na katika hotuba yake basi amesi katika mkutano huu waweze basi hakikisha kwamba wanaweza kubadilisha zile sheria za kimataifa au wakaziangalia kwa makini ili ikiwezekana ziweze kubadilishwa, maana ameshuhudia nchi nyingi ambazo zinaendelea zinaingia katika machafuko, vile vile katika migogoro ambayo ni kutokana tu na watu kutopendana na kutoshirikiana vyema. Lakini vile vile ajenda kubwa itakayoongelewa hapa ni pamoja na swala zima la Palestina kuzuiwa kujiunga na umoja huu na mengineyo mengi. Wamesema kuhusiana na sheria imekuwa ikiwa nyuma siku zote na mitandao, na vile vile sasa inafanya jambo la mitandao kuingia katika makosa ya kisheria, na duniani kote imekuwa hivyo. Kwa hiyo lakini changamoto hiyo ni fursa kwao na watahakikisha kwamba wanapambana ipasavyo. Mimi ni Esther Malisa ambayo tulikuwa tukukuletea matangazo haya ya moja kwa moja kutoka hapa jijini Dar es Salaam katika ukumbi wa kimataifa wa Julius Nyerere.